board in the past, and we've used privet, and it's gone through. We thought that that was gonna be something we could do again. But if that's a sticking point, I'm happy to change that to something else. I mean, I'm thinking perhaps like a viburnum dentatum or something, but there is a view issue we were hoping to preserve, and anything that gets too big, at least privet, as we all know, can be shaved down to precisely the height that we want and still look neat and tidy.
Essentially, most woody shrub perennials you can prune to the size that you desire.
Yeah.
Right.
Structurally, they tend to not be as full and nice looking, but 100%. I mean, that's not a hill that any of us are gonna die on. So if that needs to go away, we'll get rid of it.
Cool. That was my only opinion.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Okay, I just had the question, is it all privet or is it just that California privet?
All
that
9
you're?
species of privet are
Yeah.
invasive.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
They're all
privet's-
over the
California
place.
privet, Korean privet, golden privet, all privet.
Uh-huh, okay.
And like a native shrub is also compatible with our pollinators here. You know, it hits like a bunch of boxes.
Totally get it. It's
Taryn, would you be willing to mention a couple of the native? I would say certainly replacing privet with a native shrubbery that would also
Yeah,
benefit.
I mean, I refuse to plant privet for my clients, but if they want something similar looking, that also is. I refuse to plant privet for my clients, but I often offer them a substitute, which is Clethra alnifolia, which is a really great shrub.
love that plant. Yep. Know all about it. Yep.
It does the same service, and actually it's beautiful. It has a
Yeah.
beautiful flower on it.
Yeah,
so.
like the ruby spice or something. That's
Ruby
gonna get
spice,
tall,
summer
something
sweet, any of those.
small. Yeah, we probably go
or
with the
even
taller
like-
one.
Even bayberry is super manageable height wise, and it gets super full and beautiful as well. So
Yeah.
Also Arrowwood viburnum is a great choice.
Yeah.
And there's so many different varieties of viburnum that
Yeah.
are also
Yeah,
naturalized.
for the structure that we were looking, I would think that the viburnum dentatum or perhaps the Clethra alnifolia ruby spice would probably be about the size that we're hoping to be able
Yeah,
to
they're
maintain,
really
so-
manageable.
Yeah.
I totally hear you about the size thing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
fine.
We'll
Okay.
change it to either of those.
thank you.
Happily.
I did have one question. There's a outdoor shower going in behind it. So is that kind of why you want to
There's
do that?
two,
There's
actually.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why you want the privacy thing too, mostly?
Yeah, I mean, if you've been over there, sitting on that brick patio for Persephone's, there's a proximity thing there. Right now, it's actually been gifted to Persephone's by the owners to allow them to use that for their outdoor dining. That's the context of the relationship and how intimate those two spaces are. So we kind of felt that, rather than having a bunch of coffee drinking bagel eaters loom over people in the morning, paying whatever they're paying for their new unit, that there should be some separation there. So yeah, and we didn't want to just rely totally on fences. So along the brick of Persephone's, we're going to replace that one fence in kind, which is essentially a picket fence. And then on the decking, we've got some other fencing that passed through HDC. It's just a matter of we wanted then also create some sort of a natural filter there. So we thought that the plantings would do a good job of that.
I noticed that on your planting plan, you're calling out for Miscanthus sinensis,
Yep.
which is probably
Another
one of the most invasive plants on Block Island.
Yeah,
We've
so
got
we'll get rid
fields
of-
full of them. I would say
We'll get rid of that one
take
too.
it off
Sure.
immediately.
Yeah. So
Switchgrass is great.
Yep.
I mean, that's a fabulous
Sure.
grass, but
Yep.
definitely, there've been articles in the Block Island Times, but
Okay.
members of our board have written, so
Absolutely.
got it. I had one other question for you. Actually, this might be for Joe. Joe, planning board requested that the surveyor confirm the foundation as constructed meets the setback requirements, consistent with the approved site plan. Has that been done?
They will be doing that, and they will actually be here tomorrow night presenting that to the planning board. But that's a very fair condition. We don't, if part of your opinion says, make sure we do that, we have to do that, we know we have to do that.
Okay, great. Let's see. Are there anybody else, anybody that has any more comments or suggestions? So I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion that we send a favorable advisory to the planning board, zoning board, with two stipulations, that A, the planting plan remove the privet and replace it with a native viburnum, a native shrub, maybe perhaps the spice bush, which was the clethra. And secondly, removing the miscanthus grass from the planting plan, replacing it with a native grass such as Panicum virgatum, Shenandoah, or you have, I forget which one you're doing. Cape Breeze, sure. And the third thing is just basically that, that you do comply with the planning board's request, this is from Joe, for the foundation to meet the setback requirements consistent with the approved site plan. Other than that, we'll send a favorably advisory based on that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, we can open up our buttons, I think. The next order of business is with the Goreb property, Plat 19, Lot 37, Fire 19, Champlin Road. And I think, Joe, do you want to just mention what we're going to do?
I'm happy to start with it. Mark's here as well as I am.
Oh, okay.
But Ken Cole is who did the septic work and all the engineering work, is on the 5 o'clock boat. We'll be here at 6:05. So if we need him, would ask you to, sit us down, go on with your meeting, and then bring us back up again, if that's all right with you.
Now, exactly what will Ken Cole be talking about?
Ken Cole will be talking about basically the septic system and the drainage,
Right, which have all been approved from
which have all been approved. Right.
CMC. Okay.
Yeah, so,
All right.
so if I can start the project briefly,
Absolutely.
it's essentially a rebuilding of what they called a detached multifamily dwelling, was approved in 2004 by the zoning board and built. Now they call it a secondary dwelling development. The house that is the furthest back from the water has indeed, I think it burned down, but it's gone, it's the foundation there. The other house is still there. The proposal is to tear both of those, tear the ones down the front and rebuild essentially in the same locations. There aren't any lot coverage issues. We're not getting any closer to the coastal buffs, and we've got a confirmed coastal setback that we're working from. So so basically, we're not going any closer to the coastal feature than it is, and we're not doing any significant landscaping because we're just basically redeveloping the already developed areas. And again, Mark can tell you a lot more about the site than I can.
Yeah, so essentially the house is getting, rebuilt. There is going to be an infinity edge pool that's coincides with the elevation of the lower level. We've got a little bit of contouring to make some of the back areas a little more level. If you look on the existing conditions plan, there's pretty much just a direct slope off the back of the house currently, and we're just going to build that up and level off one area. Other than that, that landform work, essentially it's all going to stay about the same. The existing driveway, that's going to be maintained as grass pavers, so pervious pavers, and I do too. The ones over on Corn Neck look great. And then we're going to come in with another gravel driveway that services the garage, which is basically a green roof built into the landscape. It's a pretty nice looking unit. And that's going to just service the garage. Most of the time, they're going to drive up to the main house the same way they always have, which is going to have the look and feel of just a grass driveway. But it won't run out with the turf pavers.
I noticed you say, well, there's going to be a swimming pool, so you're actually going to be changing the contours there. Enormous, that's all hanging out over the bluff. Not the bluff, but actually the land off the existing deck now just drops right off. So how are you going to build that up on that?
So that's going to be an infinity edge pool. There's going to be a vertical retaining wall. It's going to be a gunite pool, so there's going to be steel in it. It's going to be like a monolithic thing dropped into the landscape. As much as possible, we were trying to preserve those existing contours. Stretching them out here and there and balancing it, not really bringing any fill in, just shifting some of the grades around to get it so it's not just such a steep drop off in certain areas.
So
Some walls are coming into play along there as well.
So I noticed on some of the requirements are that on your landscape plan, you you're supposed to show erosion barriers, silt fencing, there are none of that on our plans that we have. There's no type of erosion control exhibited.
Oh, absolutely there is, yeah, and that's
I
coming on.
didn't see it on our plans.
Those are on Ken's engineering plans. So we went back and forth to make sure that we didn't exceed the 1 acre, otherwise that triggers a DEM permit, which is a little bit excessive, and we didn't want to go down that road, so we kept it under 1 acre. There is a silt fence going strictly around that entire thing, which will be laid out in the field per the surveyor. He's
Okay,
gonna
'cause
put
we
that
we
right.
did not have that on our provided drawings, but
My
thank you, I
apologies for
appreciate
that,
that.
but we definitely do have it, yeah.
Also, in the section 403 states that you have to provide for protection of existing large trees, stone walls, open fields, and scenic views. And, I don't really see any, in the drawings we have no trees noted on the drawings. There's one on the old house, there's a giant red cedar. And further down in the lower bog, of course, there are wetlands. There's some fantastic red maple multi-stems that are, where I think the pathway goes right through it.
We made sure we stayed outside of all the wetland setbacks.
Yeah.
There's no vegetation that I can think of at all, anything woody or substantial that's gonna be removed or impacted at all. So all the wetland is outside of the silt fence, limit of disturbance.
Yeah.
All that substantial vegetation is outside the limit of disturbance, so we're not taking it.
But so the gravel road that's leading up to the existing Gambrel house now is populated with lots of beautifully old red cherry, Purina serotinas that are hanging over in a beautiful kind of an alley. And I don't see any plans for protecting that, where in 403 says we do want to protect all the
Yeah.
existing, even though they are, weedy black cherries, which are fantastic.
Oh, I love them, yeah, no.
So, is there going to be a provision to, you're not going to clear cut that road and take down all those trees that are mostly black cherries dotted all over the landscape?
I'd like to point specifically on the plan where we're talking about, just for clarity, but to my mind, the short answer would be yes, we're saving all the trees. But can we look at a plan just to make sure that we know?
Yeah, I was specifically talking about, the gravel road that leads from the old house, the Penny's old house, it kind of goes up and around. The actual the driveway is proposed. on
From
your
where
drawing.
from the burnt down building to the existing building on the hill?
Yeah, and then
That's all gonna be directly on the existing driveway. That existing driveway is the same, and then we have.
No, I know that, but I mean, just in terms of, part of the advisory would state, you're not gonna remove any of those trees that are in those groves.
I think if you make that a condition of your advisory,
Yes,
that we can live with that. Because I think,
Yeah.
let's make,
right.
I know that we're bringing the water line in underneath the new driveway, so there will be some earthwork, and I hate to say that, I know for certain that there's one particular
Right.
tree that we need to.
Yeah,
bend
no, I
around
understand that.
or
Yeah, you might have to take that one out, but in
Right,
general.
so Ken and I worked quite a bit to try to make sure that everything coincided, everything was nice and neat and tidy, to service that garage location.
Yeah, good.
And I believe we're not taking
Okay,
anything out. There
all right.
will be some clearing, I believe, for the new septic. I don't want to
Yep.
misspeak, but I think.
Is there a new septic, or is it going in the existing? I thought it was in the existing area.
I think it's two, one, new and one
Yeah.
existing.
Yeah.
I see where it is. Okay, no, I understand that. Okay.
So, there could be some incidental things, but
Right.
the intent is to,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful property.
Well, that's,
We don't want to corrupt it.
well, that's my point,
Yeah,
exactly.
we
I
wanna keep it
appreciate
as
that.
existing as possible.
Yeah, okay. No, I appreciate it. Joe, I have one question for you. Section 403 states that secondary dwelling, which you're applying for, correct? Must provide additional housing opportunities for New Shoreham families. So how does guest house, unquote, fit into that description, where it's become a guest house, not a house for an island family?
What that's been used for is to allow the families, in this case the Goreabs, to have a second house on the property. That's how that has generally been interpreted, which is what this does.
But is that, that for summer residents for weekends and things like that, or is that a permanent?
There's never been a restriction on 406 as to how it could be used. Those have been able to be used. In fact, they've even been condominiumized and sold. So those aren't restricted to year-round residents or affordable. Those are other sections of the ordinance.
But it says in 403, it says provide, and I'm quoting, provide additional housing opportunities for New Shoreham families. So now are the Gorbs New Shoreham families?
And the way it's been interpreted is the New Shoreham family is the family that owns the house, and they can build a second house on the property. There are other sections of the ordinance that provide specifically for affordable, for year-round employees, but that's how that's always been interpreted.
So, but who's interpreting it? Is it on,
It's been the town's interpretation since it was originally written.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. Well, thank you for clearing up that.
I was gonna say that was the same question that I had too, because it said specifically, and it didn't seem like that's what they were using it for. I don't know, why does it say that then if that's not the case?
Well, you're going back to 1989, so you'll have to forgive me. When the ordinance was amended, there was a concern about going to 3-acre zoning as opposed to 2-acre zoning because of subdivision. This section was put in as a compromise, and what it said was additional housing for Block Island families. It never limited. So basically, it was additional. It's been interpreted as additional housing for the family that owns the principal dwelling. In this case, the Garayabs own the principal dwelling. They become the Block Island family. That's how it's always been interpreted. There are other sections of the ordinance that provide housing that must be rented, that can't be rented seasonally, weekly, that must be going for year-round. But this section of the ordinance has never been interpreted to require that.
I have one more question for you, Joe. This is a question. Why does the architectural plan say, quote, compliance, the architectural drawings, compliance with the 1968 New York City Building Code? Why is it not saying the Block Island Building Code? And why is it not saying the Rhode Island Building Codes?
My guess is that we have a New York architect, which we do, who took his plans. Obviously, we have to comply with Rhode Island State Building Codes and New Shoreham Building Codes, and that's a mistake. That's purely a mistake. I think he took out his and we never caught. I look at the pictures. I don't look. So anyway, I missed that as well.
The fine print.
Yeah, that's not correct. It will be changed.
Okay, so would we put that in our advisory?
Absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah, because we have to do that anyway. So
Okay.
yeah. You can't just hire an
kinda odd.
architect out of state and change the local rules.
Not only that, it was 1968 building codes. I don't remember that far back.
He must be older than he sounds on the phone. No, he doesn't sound so.
Anybody? Someone like to make a motion with their microphone on? Oh,
You seem to have it down best.
all right.
Yeah, you seem to have it down best, Ron.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we send a favorable advisory to the zoning planning board based on the following conditions. Number one, that the architectural plans are changed to say compliance with the Rhode Island building codes, not with the 1968 New York City building code. Let's see, was there anything else?
The trees,
Oh, yes, the trees?
you are concerned about the trees, which we thought were perfectly acceptable, so we put those in your advisory.
We said, and then second advisory would be that they preserve all existing trees, as many as possible, not to remove any of the stone walls, except possibly opening a little bit more in the pathway that runs through. And that should be on the landscape plan presented to the zoning board. And that's it. Anybody want to make a motion to approve? Second the motion, anybody? That's the word I'm looking for. Yes, I did. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Well, now we forgot about your man coming in.
We'll take him out. He'll be relieved. Thank you. Yeah. That New York State Building Code is a good one.
Good catch, Ned.
Thank you very much.
The next order of business, approval of the Conservation Commission annual meeting schedule for 2023. You've all had it. It's all basically the same every Tuesday on the second Tuesday of the month, 5:30.
Move to approve the meeting schedule for 2023.
All in favor? I second that motion, sorry.
Aye.
There was discussion on emails of changing it to earlier.
Yes,
Did anyone want to discuss that?
thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay,
No, there was some
you have
talk,
your button on?
there had been some discussion at a previous meeting about moving the time to 4:30, if we possibly could.
Yeah,
One-
who's requesting that? Are you requesting that?
No, one of our members has some family commitments that he would like to be able to take care of earlier in the day. And I was just wondering if that was something we could work with.
That works for you better?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I
Is
didn't,
that going to be okay for you, Ned? You have to work.
No, that's fine. That's
Yeah?
fine. Is that okay with you, Kari? I mean, and does it conflict with any?
Nothing works.
But is that, so that doesn't conflict with any meetings in the town, this building? Well,
Oh, right.
No, because nobody was here before us today.
all right.
Okay.
And if it does conflict, we could possibly at one moment change it to 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
But, all right, no,
It would work better for
I'll
dinner
make-
and all that, just,
only conflicts with happy hour.
well, I'll make a motion that we accept that, changing the schedule to 4:30. That's okay with you, Tara?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
I'm free as a bird.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah, I make a motion. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's it. And now we have approval of minutes for May 10th, 2022. Anybody like to make a motion that we approve it? Or discuss it?
Yeah, I don't think I have a minute.
Shall we table that till the next meeting? Let's do that.
Yeah, if I did, it got lost. in
Table the
opinion.
approval of the meetings on May 10th.
I emailed the minutes, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we'll pick that up next month.
All right.
And then we'll have two meetings to talk about. So I'll make a motion that we adjourn
Second.
today's meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting officially closed.